Welcome back to Chapter 8. In this video, we're talking about accessibility when it comes to your content. First thing, let's go over a bit of the items that we've covered before, such as table, caption, T-head, T-body, and T-foot. Inside those, we have our TRs, our THs, and our TDs, along with the call span that we use for this example. But what if you have this specific cell right here of $18? What does that mean? Is that an item? Is that quantity? Is that total for the item? Or is that total for the order? There's no way for the browser or any assistive devices to know what that $18 relates to. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add some accessibility features. First thing is header scope. If you take a look at these two tables right here, they basically say the exact same thing. They have your column and they have your record or rows. However, for some people that are designing tables, they may consist that the things that go up and down, the things that go from top to bottom, are your columns, and the items from left to right are your records or rows. It's hard to tell exactly how a table is organized, so what you can do is use a header scope to make it easier for the browser to identify what the information being presented is. The first thing you want to do is make sure that inside the TH you have the scope of call for your column. That is COL. And inside of each row you have a scope of row. So that way the browser knows exactly what is a column and what is a row. So if you have this example again, you can see that the information first is a column for the scope call, and then you have a scope of row that follows. That way it knows how to organize the information being presented. Otherwise, it doesn't know exactly what information relates to what. Now this is a very basic example. Let's take a look at something a little more advanced. In this case, you can't just use the call and row scope. What you can do is you actually can specify the scope yourself. By doing this, you use an ID. Now, just like we used an ID before with the anchor tags and anchor reference points, this is the same concept. So please make sure whatever ID you use is unique to that page. Not just the table, not just the section, the page. Otherwise, the ID may not be able to be referenced appropriately based on the associated areas. So in this case, we have each of these columns with their own ID: item, price, quantity, and total. Now we could just say total, or we could just say total for the item, because we have a total section at the very bottom. What we're going to do also is add inside the THs a headers attribute. And the headers attribute will match the ID of the column being listed. Basically, the TH with the ID of label matches the TD headers label. So in that case, the browser knows how to organize this information. I know this may be a little confusing, a little far-fetched, but this is the way that you tell the browsers how the data is being organized. Computers are smart, but computers aren't this smart just yet, so we need to make sure we help them out with doing as much as we can to make it easier. For a complex example, in this case we have a bunch of column spans, row spans, and a bunch of information, it's hard for us alone to tell what information is related to what. So what we can do is we can actually give each column that has a call span and each row its own ID. In this case, we have the cup section with an ID of cup, the cone section, ID of cone, the ice cream section and the yogurt section both have their own unique IDs. So what we can do is for this cell right here that says $4, we can see that is a cup and that is yogurt. But search engines and assistive devices can't really tell that. So by saying headers equal yogurt and cup, then it knows exactly where to organize this information because it's inside the cup ID and the yogurt ID of the headers. So first you can have the yogurt ID and then you can have the cup ID as long as they're inside the headers. Now you can have the headers flipped around and put in whatever order you want, but as long as they're inside the headers attribute, in the appropriate column, it will be easier for the search engines and assistive devices to know where to place the data. In a bit more complex example, if we have the ID of small cup, mid cup, and large cup, or SM cup, mid cup, and LG cup, then we can allow the search engines and assistive devices to specifically label that value. If the search engine were to just see $4, that $4 could be a small ice cream cup, it could be a small yogurt cone, or it can be a medium ice cream cup. In this case, we're listing all of those, medium yogurt cup. In this case, we're listing all of those in the headers attribute, and again, any order you want, but in this case, the search engine knows exactly where to place that and how to organize it as well. Okay, so that is all for this chapter. I know it may be a little confusing. Please review this video some more, or if you have any questions about how to organize the data in a header section or even the scope, please send me an email or hit me up on Twitter, and I'll get back to you with answers to your questions.